race fans, welcome to Slingin Dirt Media. Thanks for coming over to the YouTube channel. I'm sitting here with the legendary Vern LeFevers and getting some of his stories. And if you watch the Facebook version, we just heard how he started out. And I never knew that you started out driving a figure-8 car.
Yes.
Figure-8s. Who would have thought? No. You know, Jerry King offered me I could drive his figure-8 car back when they used to have the figure-8s. He had that, what was it, that number 6 Valvoline, that big old boat thing. Yeah. He said, hey, you can drive that thing if you want. And I was like, oh man, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't do that.
It was pretty rough back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, I could only imagine. So, the first late model, you hit the track in a 1968-ish. What was this thing like?
Well, it was different, but I loved it.
Nowhere near like what we have nowadays.
Oh God, no. No.
These were back when they were still stock cars.
Yeah. Well, you built your own stuff. Yes. It was, today you buy your own stuff.
Yes. It's the days of ingenuity are, I guess, gone for the local guys.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, you could go to, we used all stock cars. I mean, all the original stuff.
Yeah.
You go to a junkyard, and most of the junkyard dealers would give you whatever you needed as long as it went on a race car.
Right.
And
they were happy to put their name on the side of it and get you out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, 68, what kind of car was this?
It was a 64 Chevelle.
64 Chevelle, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, you drove quite a few different cars over the years.
Yes.
Quite a few different racetracks.
A lot.
lot.
I drove for Morgan Chandler, Roy Cruz.
Chandler was the 28 ride.
The 28 ride was a good ride.
Yeah.
And then I drove for Charlie Gully.
Now you said Roy Cruz. Was that the C5?
The C5 car.
C5, yeah. See, I can remember that when I was younger.
Yeah, and Jim Dietz, the Green 13.
Green 13.
And Bill Spiegel. I'd drive his car. I was driving for Morgan, and I would drive Spiegel's car at Whitewater on a Friday night.
Right.
And then it's hard to remember. I drove for Sam Gilbert and Junior Stevens, the 34 car.
Mm-hmm. You turned a lot of laps down in Mudlick in that thing.
Oh yes, a lot.
A
lot there in Goddard.
Yeah. So you're talking some old Brown County days.
Old Brown County, yeah.
Brown County days.
I drove for Osborne at Brown County for years, and and then this guy bought that Chevelle of Bill's from Bill, and I drove it for him, and he was out of Sardinia, somewhere up in there. And I've had a good time doing it.
You've had a history doing it.
Yeah.
So I can remember, obviously growing up in the late 70s and 80s.
Oh, and I drove for Earl Rogers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 22 car.
The 22 car. You're right. I have some old pictures of that car. I can distinctly remember some hellacious battles with you and Pat Patrick over in northern Kentucky before it was Florence, and then even after it became Florence.
Yeah.
I mean, man, just those races seemed like those itself were legendary.
And I even drove for Billy Teagarden once.
Billy Teagarden once.
Yeah.
That's a name you don't hear very often.
No.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I get an opportunity to sit down with Billy too.
Oh, you'll love that.
Yeah.
He's
some Billy stories and some Chuck McWilliams stories. Because man, you guys had. I mean, back in those days, before the full sheet model bodies, back when they were still Camaros and stuff. Man, I mean, I've got pictures of some of these cars in my archives, and I don't share those with everybody.
And then I also drove the 29 car for Porter Lanigan.
Porter Lanigan. I thought you had that one a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't drive it, but 1 year.
Yeah.
And then Darrell.
Darrell started.
I used to take Darrell out to Florence and let him practice on Sundays.
When he was a young whippersnapper.
When he was only, not hardly 16, I think.
Wow. It's man, you think about the history and stuff, and it's like, how many laps? Do you have any idea how many laps you have around?
Gee whiz, no, I can't count that high.
Up until recently, I would say, man, you've probably got more laps than the water truck, but we know the water truck's been getting some laps in here lately.
Yeah.
Not throwing anybody under the bus or anything, but
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite track or a favorite race?
No, it's hard to pick one
Yeah.
because I enjoyed
So
all
many
of them and
them.
still do.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I'm a young man, but you know.
Sure. Stevie, I don't know if you've seen it. Stevie Landrum had a story that him and Pat Patrick had. And he said he learned something from watching Pat, and then after he did it, he said he went over to talk to Pat. He's like, "Yeah, I seen you." He said, "You learned from me."
Yeah.
I was just wondering, did you have somebody that, gosh, you really mentored a little bit?
Well, yeah, Floyd. I like Floyd. He was a heck of a competitor.
Yeah.
You know, and I even got out of the 13 car one night and let Floyd get in it so he could
Really?
win the points at Florence.
At Florence.
Yeah.
Any idea what year that would have been?
Yeah, I don't.
Gosh. Yeah.
And then
They all seem to fade together.
and then the next week I went to Millstream,
Okay.
and Floyd went with me and changed the tire for me. He said that was a payback.
That was payback for letting
Yeah.
him drive.
Yeah, and then Patrick,
Yeah.
I like racing with all the guys. Billy, I drove
Yeah.
Billy's car at Whitewater one night.
Right.
David Spears had tore it up at Florence.
Right.
And he come over to me, and I was driving for Morgan at that time, and he come over, and Morgan didn't want to race on Sundays.
Yeah.
And so he come over to me and said, if I get that thing back together, he says, will you drive it at Whitewater? And I said, yeah. So
Sure.
next day he called me and said, we got it together.
Yeah, he had it, and there you were.
So we went to Whitewater, and I ran second and won because I was leading it, and then I had a little trouble, and then I won. They had 2 races that night,
Right.
and then I won the next one.
Now, do you have a lot of races at Eldora?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we used to, when I drove for Arlo Wilson, we ran Eldora a lot.
Okay.
And we had went to Eldora that night, and Arlo had 2 cars, and we'd haul them both to Eldora.
Yeah.
And then he built this new orange number 11,
Okay.
and he had the green and white number 11, and it was an older car. And we'd haul them both up there, and I'd go out and practice with both of them.
Right.
Hot lap both of them. And then I'd qualify both of them. And Earl would come over and say, okay, boy, which one you going to drive?
This is when you could take 2 and then decide which one you want.
Which one you want. And he said, now, all right, boy, which one you going to drive? And I'd say, well, I think I'll drive the green and white one.
Okay.
Because I was comfortable in it.
Yeah. It felt good at the time.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that
Yeah.
car was working that night.
So we would run it, and then one Saturday night, I always rode with Arlo in the truck with him, and he had the orange one loaded, and the green one was sitting in the garage.
Right.
And I said, we're not taking the green one? He said, nope. He said, I built that orange one to race, and we're going to race it. So we took it to Eldora, and we got there, and we started to unload, and it started raining. So they canceled. So we headed home, and we're coming down. We get to Dayton, and it's not raining, and it hadn't rained.
Right. It's bone dry.
So when we get to Mitchell Avenue, that's where Arlo lived over on East Epworth, he said, let's stop and call Florence, because back then we didn't have cell phones.
No, this is way before.
And so we stopped, called Florence. They said, yeah, it hadn't rained there. So we headed to Florence.
Right.
Well, Junior, Arlo's boy, he said, let's stop and get the green car. And Arlo said, no, we ain't got time. We're going to run this one.
Yeah.
So we go to Florence, we unload, and we had them humpers on it. We had humpers on the back. We had to load it with the regular
Right. Loading tires.
11-inch tires on the front.
Right.
So they said qualifying was over, but they'd let me qualify if I'd come out, and they didn't know who it was because they'd never seen that car.
Okay.
And so I go out to qualify, and they said, give him a couple laps and let him get used to the track. Well, when I went down the back chute, they must have said, give him the green flag because he don't need no laps. So I set quick time. I win the dash.
Uh-huh.
And I win the heat.
Uh-huh.
And I'm leading the feature. Well, no, I'm running second in the feature, and Rodney Combs is leading it.
Okay.
In Morgan's car.
Okay.
So Morgan, Rodney was quitting to go to drive for Paul's Pipeline.
Right.
Then they put Danny Eichler in it.
Okay.
So, but
I remember that name.
But they'd had a wreck on the front chute with Bubby, I think it was Bubby, and that Bob Prather, one-arm boy.
Okay.
And
now, was this Bobby James?
Bobby James.
Bobby James, okay.
And so the flag, you know, they had the red flag.
Yep.
And by the time they got the wreck cleaned up and got them all squared away, the fog had came in so bad that you couldn't see the cars.
Yeah.
So they canceled.
Huh. You don't see races getting fogged out too often. Not very often.
But,
I mean, it's
so they canceled, and that was 7 laps in.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back the next week. Instead of going to Eldora, we went back there because we was,
right.
you know, in second place,
yeah.
which in far and well, which Rodney leaving
Yeah.
and putting Eichler in it. That means Eichler had to start on the tail.
That puts you up front.
That put me in front. So I'll go ahead and win that. Then we qualified and run another feature.
Yeah.
And I won the dash and the heat and the feature. That.
See, so you got double wins that night.
I got double wins that
so
night.
We had the makeup feature from the week before.
I won
got
that.
fogged out,
and I
then
won
the new
then
one.
I won the new one.
Those are
and
good
won
nights.
the dash and the heat. I won everything.
You won it all.
And so then the next week, I think, we went back to Eldora and went again up there. So we took the orange car again.
Took the orange car.
The orange car was a lot faster than the green car.
So then the green car kind of got parked for a little bit, maybe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You start getting very comfortable,
Yeah.
sounds like, in the orange car. We'll have to, maybe Michael can dig me up some pictures of this, because we want to try to post these and blend these in as well, you know, because I don't think I remember those.
Well, the orange car, I don't know if we got any pictures of it, except they was racing on Sunday at Dayton Speedway on asphalt.
Right.
So we take an orange car up there and run it on asphalt.
On asphalt. After running on dirt on Saturday night, then take it up there and run it on asphalt on Sunday.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember we used to have some, my dad had a bumper sticker on one of his toolboxes. And it was the old Camaro. One of the old Camaros had the big 10-inch spoilers on the back. It was the
10, 12-inch.
Yeah. And the bumper sticker said dirt was for racing and asphalt was to get there. You know? You may remember that bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Probably had it on the back of an old pickup truck or something one time.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So do you have, this has kind of been a popular question. Do you have is there a particular instance on the racetrack that really somebody kind of pissed you off a little bit that you don't mind talking about, or you want to forget about those?
No, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings,
Right.
and they've done forgot about it, and I have too.
I have too. Sometimes it's best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not very many.
Yeah.
A couple times, but you get over it by the next week.
Sure.
I mean, you're mad right then, and you wouldn't be
You're
human
mad
if you
immediately,
wasn't.
but after that,
Yeah.
I know we talked this before we got started off the air. We were talking about, we kind of had this funny kind of in my household. My mom and dad, it was just 3 of us. So we had this funny little competition. We were always competitive and always rooting for each other and against each other, whether it was football teams. My dad was a favorite Broncos. I loved the Bengals, and my mom, because she was from Kentucky, everything had to be blue and white. So she was a Colts fan for whatever reason. They were blue and white. That didn't make any sense to me, but hey, whatever. So no different at the races. We all had to pick a different driver. I don't know why, but for some reason I gravitated toward. I was a Pat Patrick fan. The shop that they worked out of or had over in Price Hill was right next to my great aunt and uncle's place. So I think that was why I seen that car in the shop. So that was my favorite driver. Turned it into my favorite driver. My mom, she was a diehard. She loved the color green, so she was always a huge Vern LeFevers fan. And I think I thought about trying to remember who was I know later on, Dad became a big Weasel fan. He was diehard Weasel. If Weasel wasn't,
I'm a Weasel fan.
He put on the show. Yeah, I know specifically there were times where like if he knew Weasel wasn't going to be there, we wouldn't even go that week because if Weasel was going, he would go watch. But I think that was more later when Weasel was driving like the steel car, and then into the '68 and the Stricker Streak he had. That was They've had a lot of cars. Yeah, a lot of drivers too. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. What did you have something you were going to?
No, no.
So a lot of time at Mudlick, a lot of time some racing at Brown County. Little John Whitney out there beating him some, and he was tough out there.
Yeah, he was.
Who was the next guy at Mudlick that would have been your biggest competitor at Mudlick?
Bucky Jackson.
Bucky Jackson. Okay. What car was Bucky in?
Number 65.
Number 65.
His dad, Jim Jackson, owned the car, and Bucky drove it. And that's a funny thing. We went to the World Dirt Track Championship this year, and I seen Bucky.
Yeah.
And I didn't really recognize him, because he
is he just didn't a little bit?
He just didn't look like him.
Right.
And I was talking to him, and he. I asked him, I said, how come you got out of it? And he said, well, so when Dad died, my money went,
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, I didn't have the money to race, but he said, I don't think I'd want to race now.
Really?
He's and he didn't look like he could.
Yeah.
Health. But he was tough.
Tough.
Yeah.
So do you have you've raced for a lot of years. Do you have a favorite era of cars? Because you went through a lot of different eras, back when they were like the Chevelles and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and the Camaros and the wedge cars, and to where we are now.
All of them cars were about the same till they switched to these cars.
Yeah.
I drove for Sam Gilbert, and they bought this. It was an old Swartz car. And then I think they bought it off of Swartz because Paul Harris had turned it back in.
Right.
And they had a bounty on me up at Goddard.
Okay.
And Bucky, the first time I went up there, Rick Bowman, he said he seen me at Whitewater, and I won at Whitewater, and he said, why don't you come up to Goddard? And I asked him where it was, and he said it was up above Maysville, Kentucky. And I said, oh, well, we might do that. And I was driving for Jack Lesby.
Okay.
And
there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah. He passed away. Yeah. So we decided to go up there. So it was on a Sunday. So we went up there. And I pulled in, and this guy come up to me and said, well, where do you race at? And I said, all over, just wherever I want to. And he said, are you good? And I said, no, I'm not really good. I said, I'm fair, but I ain't good. He said,
depends on who you ask.
He said, we got a guy here, and he stuttered. He said, we got a guy here, and his name is Bucky Jackson. He said, and he's good.
He's good, okay.
And so I said, well, we'll see how good he is.
We'll see how good I am.
So we went out and qualified, and I had fast time. Bucky was second.
Oh, Oh, okay.
That's the first time that happened.
Yeah, they got their attention real quick.
Yeah, and so he come up to me and he said, "Hey," he said, "I bet you $100 that Bucky Jackson beat you." And I said, "Well," I said, I don't bet on myself."
Right.
And what the hell is his name? He used to help Billy a lot. I can't think of his name right now. But he said, he was standing there and he said, "Hey, buddy," he said, "I'll take that bet."
Really?
He said, "Bucky won't beat him." And he said, "Who are you?" He said, "I own that other number 11 car back there." He said, "Oh, you're betting that he'll beat Bucky?" And he said, "No, I'm betting the bet that you wanted to bet that LeFevers beats Bucky."
Right.
And he said, "Okay, you're on." So we go out in a fast car dash and I win.
Uh-huh.
We go out in a heat race and I win. We lined up for the feature.
Yeah.
I'm starting on the outside pole because you could choose your position.
Yeah.
Inside or out.
Right.
He said, he come up to me and he said, "Hey, buddy," he said, "You care if we call that bet off?"
Oh, no.
I said, "You didn't make a bet with me.
Right.
You made it with it."
That other fellow.
Bell, Johnny Bell.
Johnny Bell.
Johnny Bell. And he said, "Well, where's he at?" And I said, "Well, his boys out there in that number 11 car, so go back there and talk to him." So he went back there and they called the bet off.
Yeah.
After the race is over, he come down and he said, "Buddy," he said, you lied to me." I said, "I lied to you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You're good."
He told me you weren't any good.
Yeah. So I lied to him.
I think that betting option, I think, man, you have to buy me out of that bet because I think I'm looking at a pretty good sure thing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell you what, Vern, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
I feel like this is going pretty good. I think there's a few more stories we can get out of you. So we want to keep the folks entertained and keep them watching. So we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and see what else we can dive into.
Okay.
All right, folks. So just hang around or check out the next video. It'll be up here in just a few moments. Thanks.